I was 19 when our band got its first shot at touring. We weren't famous, just a bunch of college kids chasing dreams and lugging gear from city to city. One of our early stops was Cincinnati, Ohio. We booked a place downtown that had seemed charming online. But when we arrived just after midnight, it felt wrong. The inn looked like it had once been elegant, but now wore its age like a heavy coat. The lobby was dim and smelled faintly of stale cologne and old books. A man stood behind the counter, too still, like a mannequin left behind. His eyes never left the dusty monitor as we approached. I gave him our name, and without blinking, he said flatly, "You already checked in. Room 409, around 6:10 this evening." A weird chill climbed up my spine. "That's not possible," I told him. "We just got here. No one's been ahead of us." He didn't answer, just slid a room key across the counter without ever meeting my gaze. We took the elevator up. It groaned the whole way, like it resented the work. The hallway on the 4th floor was claustrophobic, with peeling wallpaper and old yellow wall sconces that cast shaky shadows. No one spoke. It felt like admitting what we were all thinking would make it more real. Nate swiped the key card. The green light blinked, and the lock clicked like it had been waiting. The door opened easily. Inside, the room was dark but uncomfortably warm, like someone had just stepped out. Nate flicked on the lights, and we froze. The beds were in disarray, too much so, like someone had just risen from them in a hurry. One still held the deep shape of a body. 2 empty water bottles sat on the desk. My brand. I crossed the room and touched the bed, still warm. Nate glanced around uneasily. "You sure no one came early?" I shook my head. We'd all been in the van together all day. It was the details that made it worse. A hoodie slung over the back of the chair matched one I owned exactly. I checked my bag. Mine was still there. "This is too weird," I muttered. Then came the sound from the bathroom. Water. Slow, heavy drips. Nate's eyes widened. "Was that running when we came in?" I didn't answer. Couldn't. My throat had locked up. He stepped slowly toward the bathroom door, hand trembling as he reached for the knob. It creaked open with a shudder. Inside, the light flickered, casting everything in a queasy strobe. The faucet was dripping steadily into a shallow puddle. The mirror was fogged over, like someone had taken a hot shower not long before. Nate wiped it with his sleeve. Nothing behind us. Still, it felt like we weren't alone. 2 toothbrushes stood in a cup by the sink, red and blue, both damp at the bristles. "Okay, no," Nate said. He shut the faucet tight, voice sharp. Back in the main room, I rifled through drawers looking for clues. In the nightstand was a receipt for takeout, dated just a few hours earlier. It was signed J. Baker. None of us knew anyone by that name. I felt nauseous. We tried calling the front desk. The line just rang. No busy signal, no voicemail. Just that slow, echoing ring. "I think we should go," I said, already stuffing my bag. Then we heard it. The elevator down the hall dinged. We hadn't pressed the button. The doors opened with a soft hiss. No one stepped out, but we heard someone. Footsteps, soft, deliberate, coming down the hall. We slammed the door and locked it. Every bolt. Nate leaned against it, ears straining. "You heard that too, right?" I nodded, barely breathing. I checked the peephole. The hallway was empty. Nothing moved. I turned to Nate. He was pacing now, muttering. Then, a knock. Just one. Firm. We didn't move, didn't speak. No voice followed, no second knock. I backed away from the door, gripping my phone like a lifeline. I called the front desk again. Still the same endless ringing. Then I texted the rest of the band, Eli, our drummer, and the others. They were supposed to meet us here. A moment later, my screen lit up. Eli, "We're in the room. Where are you guys?" My blood went cold. I typed back, "Room 409. "Where are you?" The reply was almost instant. "We've been here for hours." "Room 409. "You're not here." I looked at Nate, his face drained of color. I typed again, "Are you messing with us?" Then came the message that broke everything. "We knocked just now. The lights were on, but no one answered." Nate stumbled back from the door like it had bit him. We checked the peephole again. Still empty. "What if we're not in the same 409? I whispered. He flipped the key card. Room 409. Plain as day. "This doesn't make sense," he murmured. "Like we're in the right place, just not the right version of it." Then the lights blinked, once, twice, and went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Nate turned on his phone flashlight and swept the beam around. For a second in the mirror we both saw it. A third shadow. Not moving. Not ours. I spun to face it. Nothing there. Gone. My breathing was loud now, ragged. "We have to get out." Nate yanked the door. It clicked but wouldn't open. Locked, sealed, held shut. He threw his shoulder into it again and again. Nothing. Then we heard whispering, but neither of us was speaking. Low, gurgling, coming from under the bed. Nate dropped to look, but I grabbed him. "Number, don't! I'm not checking that." We fled into the bathroom and slammed the door. Locked it. The mirror was fogged again. This time, something was written in the condensation. "You were already here." Neither of us moved, not a breath. Then the bathroom light went out too. In the pitch dark, a whisper crept to my ear. And it wasn't Nate's. When the light came back on, we were outside, in the parking lot, our bags in hand. Neither of us remembered leaving. The sky was turning pale. Dawn. The hotel looked still, like nothing had happened. Through the front glass, we could see the same man behind the desk, frozen in place, unblinking. We never talked about it after that. We left Cincinnati before the sun was fully up. To this day, I won't stay on the 4th floor of any hotel, and I don't ask questions if the room looks lived in, and if I ever hear someone knock just once, I don't answer. I was 25, working long stints as a traveling insurance adjuster, when I found myself stationed in St. Augustine, Florida. My job had me zigzagging along the coast, checking storm-damaged properties and filing paperwork from whatever motel had a vacancy. Late spring brought thick, humid nights and a flood of tourists, so lodging was tight. The only room left in town that evening was at a small 3-story brick hotel tucked down a side alley on the edge of downtown. The building looked forgotten by time. Inside, the front desk sat beneath yellowed ceiling tiles, and the walls were papered in faded floral print. The man at reception barely glanced up as he slid over a key with a metal tag. My room was at the far end of the 2nd floor. The hallway carpet crunched faintly under my boots like old cereal, and everything smelled faintly of bleach and something older underneath. The room itself was modest. Plain bedspread, creaky dresser, a narrow window overlooking the alley below. I tossed my gear down and collapsed early. After 12 hours of crawling through attics and inspecting cracked walls, I didn't care about aesthetics. I stirred sometime during the night, half in a dream. 3 soft knocks echoed from the door, gentle, spaced evenly apart. I blinked at the glowing red digits on the clock. 4:12 a.m. Still foggy, I crossed the room and opened the door, expecting to see someone, maybe a guest looking for another room. But the corridor was deserted. No sounds, no motion. I peered both ways and waited a moment. Nothing. Probably a dream, I told myself. I shut the door and went back to bed. The next day passed uneventfully. Rain spat off my windshield between site visits, and by the time I returned, I was too drained to think about the night before. But when I lay down again, unease crept back in. I left the bedside lamp on, just in case. Once more, I awoke at 4:12 a.m. Same knocks, same pattern. This time I moved fast, reached the door and yanked it open. My pulse spiked as I scanned the hallway. Empty again, absolutely still. But there was a difference. A sudden chill hung in the air. A musty smell like wet stone briefly wafted past me. I shut the door a little harder than necessary. By the 3rd night, I was done playing defense. I stayed up, half sitting in bed, shoes on, eyes on the clock. The room felt oddly dense, like the air itself resisted movement. I must have nodded off around 4 o'clock, but the knocks jolted me upright. 3 knocks, 4:12 again. I lunged for the door and threw it open. The hallway was as vacant as ever, until I noticed a light down near the stairwell flicker. A door further down the hall, room 207, eased shut, just slow enough to catch it in my peripheral vision. I hadn't seen it open. Each night after that felt longer than the last. I barely slept, body locked in tension, always bracing for that knock. It was never aggressive, just deliberate, precise, like someone knew the exact moment I would be awake. By the fourth night, I set a trap. I left the door slightly ajar and stayed perfectly still under dim light. As the clock neared the hour, my breath shortened. When it hit 4:12, the knock came again. No louder than the last, but crystal clear. I threw the door wide, heart pounding. Nothing. No footsteps, no scurrying. But the hallway felt wrong, like it had subtly stretched in both directions. The air was colder, thicker. I squinted down toward the exit sign, which buzzed faintly and flickered with a strange green hue. That was when I realized something wasn't just messing with me, it was studying me. On the fifth night, I tried something new. I ignored it. I buried myself under the covers, turned off the lamp, and willed myself to sleep. I still woke up at 4:12. The knock had returned, sharp, unfaltering, but now the air had turned icy. I could see my breath as I sat up, confused. The AC hadn't been running, and there was a sound, not the knock, but something else. A murmur, barely audible, like someone mumbling behind a wall. Against every instinct, I opened the door again. The corridor looked the same, but everything felt off-kilter. I stepped out, moving toward the stairwell, where the noise seemed strongest. The whispering continued, low, wet, indistinct. I turned a corner and stopped. Nothing. No people. No knock. No whisper. Just quiet. But it wasn't peaceful. It was expectant. I rushed back to my room, but as I shut the door, my hand froze. The lock had been undone. I knew I'd secured it. My hand trembled as I turned the bolt and backed away from the door. That was the first night I didn't even try to sleep. I sat upright until dawn, watching the door. At 5 a.m., I picked up the phone and called downstairs. My voice cracked as I explained everything. The knocking, the chill, the strange feeling I wasn't alone. The woman at the front desk hesitated before answering. When she did, her voice was soft, cautious. "You're not the first to report that, sir, but unfortunately, we don't have any other rooms available." I swallowed hard. "What do you mean? Others heard the same thing." Silence. Then she repeated, "I'm sorry, sir. There are no other rooms tonight. You can speak with management in the morning." Click. I sat motionless, the line still buzzing in my hand. The knock came one last time, right on schedule. 4:12. But I didn't move. I stared at the door, and I swear, I saw the doorknob twitch. I never stayed in that town again. I was 18, in my final year of high school, and on the girls' varsity softball team when we got invited to a big tournament in Las Vegas. That year, we'd been killing it, undefeated for weeks, so the invitation felt like a reward. The tournament was scheduled for the weekend, and we were all buzzing with excitement as the bus rolled into Nevada. We arrived at the hotel around 9 p.m. It was a mid-range chain, about 15 minutes outside the Strip, just far enough to feel isolated, but close enough to see the faint glow of the skyline in the distance. The lobby looked generic enough, dim lighting, sterile air, fake plants, that kind of thing. After we checked in, we split up into rooms. I was staying with 3 of my close friends from the team. About an hour later, we were unpacked and winding down. The TV was playing some random cooking show, the lights were dim, and we'd all started settling into bed. We were scheduled to play early the next morning, so we wanted as much rest as we could get. I was halfway between sleep and consciousness when the room phone rang. It startled all of us, loud and sudden, echoing in the quiet. None of us had touched the phone, and honestly, I'd stayed in enough hotels to know room phones rarely ring unless something's really wrong. We all sat up, exchanging nervous glances. "Should we answer it?" someone asked. I reached over and picked up the receiver. "Hello?" At first, there was only static. Then a man's voice came through, low, raspy, almost like he was whispering through grit. "This room hasn't been paid for," he said. "One of you needs to come down to the lobby." His tone was off. It wasn't casual or polite. It sounded rehearsed, controlled, like someone playing a role. Immediately, my gut twisted. I knew for a fact the room was paid for. I had watched our coach swipe his card at check-in and hand us our keys. I said, "That's not possible." Our coach took care of the payment. There was a pause on the other end. Then in the same calm voice, but colder now, the man repeated, "One of you needs to come down. Just one, or there will be consequences." That word, consequences, hit different. He didn't say it like a threat. He said it like a promise. I froze. The others were staring at me, eyes wide. I put my hand over the receiver and whispered, "He says we haven't paid and that one of us needs to go to the lobby." They all shook their heads. "No way, no chance." Back into the phone, I said firmly, "We're not going anywhere. If there's a problem, someone can come up here." I hung up before he could respond. The second the receiver hit the cradle, silence fell again. Heavy. The kind of silence that makes your ears ring. I told the others exactly what he said. Everyone agreed. There was no way in hell we were leaving the room. Not at that hour, not for some faceless voice on the other end of a phone. We locked the deadbolt, dragged the dresser in front of the door, and tried to sleep. But none of us really did. We lay there, stiff and restless, every small sound amplified in the dark. The phone rang again about an hour later, then again after that. We didn't answer. Each ring sounded longer, louder, like it was coming from inside the walls, not just the phone. By morning, we were exhausted. We told our coach everything at breakfast. He didn't brush it off. His expression turned serious fast. He marched straight to the front desk to ask if there had been an issue with payment. The woman behind the counter looked genuinely confused. She confirmed everything had been handled during check-in. No flags on our account, no missed payments. And when he mentioned the phone calls, her face went pale. "We don't make guest calls that late," she said. "It's against policy, especially not about billing." She promised to check the security footage and speak with the night staff, but we never heard anything after that. No follow-up, no explanation. Nothing happened for the rest of the trip. No more calls. No one showed up at our door. But it stuck with me. The thing I can't shake, even now, years later, is the way the man spoke. Like he knew something we didn't. Like he had done it before. And the scariest part, how did he know what room we were in? What would have happened if one of us had listened? If just one of us had stepped out into that quiet hallway alone? I still get chills thinking about it. We got lucky. And I don't know who that man was or what he wanted, but I'm certain of one thing. He wasn't calling from the lobby.